Hey guys, what's up? It's Krystal. So today I have my labor and delivery story to share with you guys. I've tried to film this video so many times. This is like my 5th time trying to film this. This video really just doesn't want to be filmed because I tried to film this for the 5th time. I was filming and my battery died. I was like, seriously? Like, what can possibly go wrong next? Like, the house burns down? Like, I don't know what's going on. So this is my 6th time trying to film this. I decided to start over again because the battery died, and then I tried to start from where I left off, and I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it. So here I am again with the battery almost fully charged, trying to film this for the 6th time. This is my labor and delivery story that you guys have been waiting for so long, and I'm so sorry it took so long to get up for you guys, but I do want to film this for you, and let's get through this because I just finally want to film this and get it up for you guys. So I had my baby Keely on June 30th at 11:17 p.m. She was 8 pounds 4 ounces and 20.5 inches long, so she was a pretty big baby. My original due date was July 8th, and a lot of people in my family and my husband and everything predicted or just kind of felt like I was going to have her a week early, and they were right. So I did have her early. I had her June 30th. And she's as precious as could be, and I love her to death, and she's just my little bundle of joy. I wouldn't change anything for the world, and I think she's waking up now. Every time I start trying to film this, she's napping right now, and I'm watching her on the monitor. I have her in the other room so she can't hear all the noise. She's pretty good though. She sleeps through a lot of noise. But we just got home from lunch and she fell asleep in the car seat, so I have her still in the car seat in my master bedroom, and I have the monitor on her so I can see her. But it looks like she's just moving a little bit, but I think she's still sleeping. So anyways, I did have her early, and anyways, I love her to death. She's my little bundle of joy. She's so precious. Also, I had filmed my 38-week vlog video for you guys, and I just never got it up because literally, like, I think a day or 2 later I went into labor. So I just never got that video up for you guys, and I decided just to delete it. No point of posting it now because I'm just going to share my labor and delivery with you guys, and let's just get on with the story. So it all started on Monday, June 29th. I could not sleep. I was very fatigued but not mentally tired, so I decided to stay up, and I was watching some TV, but I had to keep running to the restroom. I felt like my bladder was like continuously just leaking or something like that. I just had a lot of leakage, and I thought it was my bladder. I really didn't know what was going on. But then I started to have a bloody discharge, which was very light pink in the beginning. But as time progressed, it got darker and there was more of it. So around 12 o'clock, I decided to go to bed. I could not sleep the entire night because I literally had to keep running to the restroom nonstop. It just felt like I was having like all this major leakage, and it was just getting worse as time progressed. But it wasn't like it wasn't my whole water broke. Basically, my water partially ruptured. That's what was going on, but I didn't know it at the time. And I kind of had a feeling that the bloody part of it was the mucus plug, because you can lose that like right before labor or weeks before labor. So I didn't know if I was going into labor early or what. I had no idea what was going on. So, you know, I couldn't sleep the entire night because I literally had to keep running to the restroom, and I was just like kind of freaked out. And then around 3 o'clock in the morning, I started to get lower back pain. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, I had lower back pain that started to radiate to my pelvis, and it just was getting more intense with time. It felt like bloody diarrhea and menstrual cramps, painful menstrual cramps, like the combination of those two. And I wasn't really 100% sure if these were true contractions. So I looked it up on my phone, Googled it, you know, true labor versus false labor. I just basically didn't want to go to the hospital and then be sent home because it was false labor. So I looked it up. Everything was adding up because it described how I felt was exactly how it described it online. So I'm like, okay, I'm having contractions, I'm going into labor. So I woke up my husband. I was like, babe, I think I'm going into labor. What should we do? He's like, I don't know. What do you think we should do? And I'm like, well, I don't want to get there and they send us back home. So let's just kind of wait it out a little bit. So we kind of calculated my contractions. They were every about 5, 6, 7 minutes apart, and they were very consistent, and they just were progressively getting more intense with time. So we finally decided like an hour later to start getting ready to go to the hospital. But we kind of took our time. Like, I showered and everything like that. I already had my bags packed, but I just kind of wanted to take my time because I didn't want to get there because I knew that we were going to be waiting around forever. So we get to the hospital at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm thinking in my mind that we're getting to the hospital at 5:30 in the morning. We're probably going to have her by this afternoon. Everything's going to go fast. But lo and behold, I was so wrong about that because I did not have her until 11:17 p.m. that day. So I was in labor for like, from the time my water started leaking till the time I had her, it was like 24 hours, a little more than 24 hours actually. So it was just a really, really long day, but we got to the hospital. They checked us in. They took us to the OB triage. I saw a nurse. She asked if my water had broken. I said I wasn't sure, but I was having like a lot of leakage and I thought it was my bladder, but I don't know. Maybe it was my water that broke. And I also told her I was having the bloody discharge. So she checked my cervix. I think I was 3 centimeters dilated at that point. And she said, I still feel your water. I don't think it broke, but I will swab you, take it to the lab, come back and let you know. So she did that. She came back. She said, you're right, your water did rupture. However, it was only partially ruptured because they could still feel the bottom of it. So that's why I was having that leaky sensation. So before they moved us to a room, a doctor came in to see me, and she was like the graveyard shift doctor that was on call. So I only saw her, and then like that was the end of her shift and she left for the day. So I saw her. She was really nice, just went over some labor and delivery things with me, and then she was kind of poking and prodding my stomach, just trying to figure out how big the baby was going to be. And she said, I think you're going to have an 8-pound baby. And I was thinking in my mind, oh, I just really didn't want to have a really big baby, but I was pretty big in my pregnancy. I gained a total of 43 pounds. So she thought I was going to have an 8-pound baby, but then she decided to lay me down on the stretcher and poke and prod more on my stomach. And she's like, I retract what I say. I think you're going to have a 7-pound baby. And the reason being is because she said she could feel a little bit of squishiness around the sides of my stomach, like it wasn't all baby. And she said I looked smaller laying down versus sitting up. So she thought in the end that I was going to have a 7-pound baby. So she left after we had our conversation, and then they moved me to the labor and delivery room, which was really nice and spacious. It was just my husband and I. But prior to leaving to the hospital, I did call my mom because she lives 2 hours away. So she already had her bag packed. She already had her bags packed and ready to go just in case I was early. So I called her on the way to the hospital, or before we left to the hospital, and she said, okay, I'm going to be on my way. So we were just waiting for my mom to get there. The nurse that we had was super, super nice, and she checked my cervix, and she's like, well, the baby's head needs to drop further down. So she's like, do you want to walk around for like a while? And I was like, okay, trying to speed up the process by walking around. So they had me walk around. I walked around for quite some time. I don't know if it was like 40 minutes or an hour. I don't remember exactly. It's like everything becomes a time blur. It really, really does. So walked around with my husband for quite some time, came back to the room. My mom had finally gotten there. I was beyond hungry at this point because I'm just one who needs to eat frequently, and my blood sugar is normal, but it just gets a little bit on the lower side. So when I get hungry, it's like I need to eat, or I get hangry. I don't feel well. I get shaky. I get migraines. So it's like I have to eat when I'm really hungry. And the fact that you can't really eat anything, it sucks. Like I was so hungry, and I kept complaining about it the entire time. I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. And I did have like liquid soups and jello and like popsicles and everything like that, but it's not real food, and it really doesn't fill you up. And I was just hungry. I was a hungry girl. So anyway, with that being said, so I was given Pitocin to help speed up the process, and I was also given penicillin antibiotics via IV because I did have strep B. You know, they test you for that prior to delivery, and I was positive for strep B, so they had to give me antibiotics via IV every 4 hours. So I was on that along with the Pitocin, and they were just waiting for the baby's head to drop. So I waited until I was about 4.5 to 5 centimeters dilated before I got my epidural, and I just couldn't take the pain anymore. And I totally respect women who can go through labor like naturally. Like I totally respect you for that, but I'm just one that I don't want to tolerate the pain. I just want to make it as easy as possible. So it's like, give me my epidural. So the anesthesiologist came in, she gave me my epidural, and for the most part right away it helped, except for on my right side. My right side was still having pain. So the nurse said, well, she said, well, the catheter's probably tilted more to one side than the other, so let's roll you onto your right side, and hopefully it will help the medication go to that side of your body. So that did help. And then after that, she wanted me to lay on my side with my legs propped open with a big ball between, so that the baby's head would drop further down. Because that's pretty much what we were waiting for. And this the epidural happened around, I would say around 3 o'clock. I'm trying to remember exactly time frames, and I wish I would have written things down. But so when you're going through pain and everything like that, you just don't care about writing things down. So my husband and her roll me onto my left side, and she puts not balloon, but she puts the ball between my legs to prop my legs open so the baby's head will hopefully drop down farther. And I'm in that position for quite some time. I don't even know how long I was in that position. But my contractions, you know, I couldn't really film at that point. And my legs were extremely numb. Like I was numb from the waist down. I could not feel anything. My legs were complete dead weight. Could not move them, which I'm sure all women experience when they have an epidural. And then with the epidural, you can hit it every 15 minutes. So I was totally hitting it every 15 minutes because I'm not about that pain. I do not like pain. So I was propped on my lips. So I was propped up on my left side with the ball between my legs. I don't know for how long. But then I started getting a pain again on my right side. However, it was different than the contractions because this was a consistent pain and it felt like a muscle strain. So I told the nurse, I'm having a pain on my right side and I can't handle it. Can you turn me onto my right side? Like turn me the other way because I can't handle it anymore. So they turned me onto my right side, and I still feel this pain. It feels like my muscle is spasmed or strained. That's what it feels like. So I told her I can't handle the pain on my right side. It doesn't feel like a contraction. She's like, are you sure? And I'm like, I am 100% sure it's not a contraction. It's a constant pain. It's not coming and going in intervals. So she massages my back on that side and she goes, you're right. I could feel like a knot and I can see a lump. So she's like, you probably do have a strained muscle right there. And I honestly think it's because I was propped on my left side for so long and my muscle just got strained. So she's like, what should we do? And I'm like, I can't handle it. So I'm like, I need to lay on my back flat. Like I need to lay flat on my back. Well, not flat all the way down, but like propped up a little bit. So they lay me on my back and it alleviated the pain just very little, like hardly anything. And I just couldn't tolerate it. I still could not tolerate the pain. Even the epidural was not helping because the pain was above the epidural. And so I told her, you know, I need you to sit me up all the way. Like I need to take the strain off that muscle. Like I just can't handle the pain. So they sit me up all the way, and luckily it did help a lot. I could still feel it, but just not as intense as it was. So yeah, I had this really weird strained muscle from being propped on my side for so long. So I mean, we just waited there forever for the baby's head to drop lower. And I had not seen a second doctor this entire time. It was just my nurse. The doctor on call from the facility that I go to, I had never met her before, but she was like in C-section after C-section. There was like lots of babies born that day, so she was constantly busy. She never came into the room until I was crowning, which was crazy to me. I just couldn't even believe that. We were just like waiting. It's like a waiting game. And I was just so my mind was blown that a doctor didn't come in to see me this entire time. So anyways, I'm complaining the whole time that I'm starving, but luckily I can't feel my contractions anymore, and we're just basically waiting for the baby's head to drop. And they weren't going to break my water, the remaining part of my water, until the baby's head dropped because they wanted to use it as a cushion. So, I mean, we waited forever and a day, and I think I started pushing around 7:30 at night, and I don't even remember at what point I was 10 centimeters dilated, but I was for quite some time. But the baby's head was still not far enough down. So anyways, finally, I think around 7:30 when we had a new nurse, the baby's head had dropped far enough down. So the nurse did have me start pushing, and I still haven't seen a doctor at this point because she's still doing C-sections. So the nurse has me start pushing, and you know, I'm holding my legs and I'm pushing as hard as I can, and I'm pushing so hard. And I ended up busting all the capillaries in my face because I was pushing so hard and using so much force with my face. And I kind of had a feeling that would happen to me because when I vomit, that happens to me because I just throw up so forcefully and just so profusely. So yeah, I busted all the capillaries in my face, which nobody told me. I didn't see until later. But they just kept telling me, stop pushing with your face, push with your rear instead of your vajayjay. But it's really hard when you can't feel anything from the epidural. Like you can't feel from like your waist down. So it's like, how do you know where you're pushing from? So the doctor finally came in around like 9:30 or 10, and I had been pushing since like 7:30. So we've been pushing for a long time. And then at some point I had to stop pushing now and again because one, the baby's heart rate was going up too high. It was going up into the 180s, and they were concerned that because I was in labor for so long and pushing so long, that it was putting stress on the baby. So they would have me stop for a while, and then my contractions were getting farther apart instead of closer together. Like, it was crazy. So that was going on, and then at the same time my temperature started to elevate. I had a temperature of 101.1, and they were concerned because I did have strep B, and secondly, my water had partially ruptured 23 hours prior. So then they start to be concerned because you can get an infection in your uterus when that happens. So they were concerned about those two things, and so they would have me stop, and then I would go again, and then they would have me stop. I can't even remember if they gave me something for my temperature or not. I thought they did, but anyways, so it was just a really long, tiring process. So I just continued to push, and then at one point they're like, do you want the mirror? And initially I never thought I would use the mirror. I didn't want it, but at this point, since I had been pushing for so long and in labor for so long, I was like, yes, give me the mirror. I want to see, I want to use it as incentive. I want to see where I'm pushing, how hard I'm pushing, what progress I'm making. So they bring out the mirror, and it was so helpful to see, like, when I would push, I would see how much the baby's head would come out, partially come out. So it would let me know, like, if I'm pushing hard enough, if I'm pushing from the right area of my body. So that helped a lot. And still, I could not push her out at all. I just couldn't push her out. I could just see all her hair. She had a lot of hair at the top of her head. So the doctor finally told me, if you don't push her out in this last try, I'm gonna have to cut you. I always forget what that's called. It starts with an E, when they cut you. So she said, I'm gonna cut you if you don't push her out in this last try. And I was thinking, oh no, I do not want to be cut. I am gonna push with all my might, which I had been before, but I'm gonna do it even more. So I literally pushed, I don't know, I probably tried 5 times, and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and I finally popped her out. And it was so cool that I got to see her head when she popped out. And it's funny because my husband looked at her and he goes, oh my gosh, she looks just like me. And she totally looks like my husband. Like, they're little twinsies, I swear. So when she came out, she was a little bit blue, pale in the face. She didn't come out crying. So the nurses took her right away, and the nurses were cleaning her off, and they were actually laughing at her eyebrows because they were just saying, like, oh my gosh, her eyebrows look like they're Sharpied on. Look at those eyebrows. They were just kind of laughing about it. So I could just hear them in the back. Here I am with my legs propped up, and the doctor's just stitching me up because I did tear. I had a 2nd-degree tear. Oh, so she was going to cut me, but I tore anyways because the baby was so big. And it's funny because when I was pushing in, I could see her little head. I thought it was small, but the reason it looked so small is because she had a cone head. I had been pushing for so long. She had a little bit of a cone head, and that's all I could see. But once her head popped out, it was like, holy moly, that thing came out of me. Like, it's just hard to even believe that those babies are in your belly and they come out. Like, it's a little miracle. It really is. So she was stitching me up, and they were cleaning her off, and the doctor was like, you know, she's in respiratory distress. The cord was wrapped around her head 3 times. She has lots of swelling on her head. She needs to go to the NICU and be monitored right away. So usually they leave you with your baby all night long, and they don't even take them to the nursery at this hospital. But because of things that she had going on, they were concerned about the swelling on the head, the respiratory distress, and the fact that my temperature was going up, and they were concerned that she might have an infection. So those were the 3 things that they were concerned about. So they literally cleaned her off. They put her on my chest for a second, and she was just staring at me. It was so beautiful. So she was just staring at me, and then they took her away right away. I mean, I didn't even hold her for 5 minutes, and it was just kind of sad that they took her away right away. So I told my husband, just go with her. You know, don't worry about me. Just go with the baby. I want you to be with her. So my mom stayed with me, and I was beyond exhausted because, like I said, I had her at 11:17 p.m. and I was just so tired. My face felt so swollen. I felt so tired. I was beyond starving. All I wanted to do was eat. So it almost worked out for the better, just for me, because I tore, and I just felt like I was hit by a truck 20 times again. Like, it was just crazy. And I'm sure a lot of moms feel that way, but I just didn't expect all of that, I guess. I just expected it to be a lot smoother than it went, and a lot shorter than it went. So so after they cleaned me up and, you know, removed the placenta and everything, they moved my husband and I to our room, which once they moved us to our room, the new nurse that we had was, you know, attending to me and everything. And gosh, once that epidural wore off, I was in so much pain. I felt like I was hit by a truck 20 times again, like seriously. And then the next day was even worse. I felt really, really awful. Like my arms hurt from holding on the bed and holding my legs up and pushing so hard and pulling myself up in the bed whenever they would need to scoop me up. I was just so miserable. I was so in so much pain. I just was so uncomfortable. I mean, I literally felt like I got bulldozed over. It was not what I expected. I thought things would go faster and smoother, but it was just much different than I expected. So anyways, I was beyond tired, and it's hard because they say to get your rest, but honestly you can't because the nurses keep coming in throughout the night, and then they bring you your food in the morning. And so I didn't go to see the baby until like, I think later that next day in the afternoon. I just physically could not get out of bed. I was just so exhausted, and my face was so swollen. I had so much swelling in my face, it was unbelievable. Like when I woke up, I felt like I couldn't even, well, I pretty much didn't sleep all night, and when I finally fell asleep, you know, people would come in, but when I finally got out of bed that afternoon, I could barely walk at this point because I was in so much pain. Had to wheel me around in the wheelchair. But when I woke up, I felt my face. I was like, you know, I can barely open my eyes. My face feels really swollen. And when I looked in the mirror, I was like, oh my gosh, like my face is really, really swollen. So anyways, my husband rolled me over to the nursery so we could go check on Keely. And we spent, you know, a lot of time there. We went to there every few hours, but I was trying to get my rest at the same time. So it kind of worked out for the better that she was in the NICU, just because I don't know how moms can take care of their baby when they feel like that. I don't know, maybe it affects everybody differently, but I just couldn't believe it. So they discharged me like 2 days after delivery, and Keely had to stay in the NICU. Unfortunately, she stayed for 5 days until July 4th. That's when she got out. So it was really sad and hard for me to come home without my baby. You know, you are pregnant for 9 months, more like 10 months, and then you go through all this labor and everything, and then you have to go home without your baby. It's really, really hard. But honestly, it kind of worked out for the better just because I was in so much pain and I just didn't feel too well at all. So the fact that she was there, it was just kind of better for the both of us. Like, I knew it was in her best interest to stay there because they were monitoring her for those 3 things. And so I would go every day. Luckily, the hospital's really close by, and I would literally go like every 3 to 4 hours. So we started to try breastfeeding and all of that, but you know, your milk doesn't come in like 3 to 5 days after delivery. Doing formula feeding and breastfeeding at the same time, and then they were really trying to get her out of there. So she was on an IV and on antibiotics as well, just in case she had an infection. But everything came out normal with her test results. So she didn't end up having an infection after all, but they did give her antibiotics in the beginning just in case. And she was in an IV, and because she was there so long, she had to be in an IV to get nutrients and everything. So they wanted to get her off the IV, and the only way to do that was to give her formula when I wasn't there. So they started to give her formula through like bottle feeding and everything. But then when I would go in, we would try to breastfeed. So my milk did come in like 3 days later, which I was happy about, because I was like, oh, you know, you're sitting there trying to pump because they want you to pump, and you produce that colostrum, and it was literally less than a dime size amount. Like, I was like, is this even worth it pumping for? And they're like, no, we'll take anything. We'll take it even if it's a little drop. So the nurses were really, really sweet and really helpful. So I'm just glad that we live so close, and I was able to go like every few hours to see her. But then also I was able to get my rest in between at home. So yeah, it was really hard having her there, but it was in her best interest, and they were just checking on her swelling. They were waiting till the swelling in her head went down, and her test results came back normal, and she was on the IV, which she finally got off of once she started bottle feeding. And yeah, she got out of the hospital on July 4th. Oh, the other thing they were concerned about was her respiratory issues. So because she had the cord wrapped around her head 3 times, she was kind of in respiratory distress. And while she was in the NICU, there was a couple times where her oxygen went down into the 80s. So they were concerned about that, and they were monitoring her for that as well. But then she started doing better. So she had to stick it out for 5 days. And then, you know, once the pediatrician doctor came in there and checked her out and everything, and they finally discharged her on July 4th. So we got to bring her home on July 4th, and they did this really cute little picture before we left. So they actually did a stamp of her feet, and it said, "My first 4th of July." It was super, super cute. So I think I want to frame that. But yeah, she's finally home. She's precious. I love her. She is taking a nap right now, so I don't want to wake her up to show her in this video, but I will insert some pictures and some clips of her because I have taken lots of videos of her. I'm like constantly taking pictures of her. But I will have to do another video about like postpartum and everything like that. But this video is already really, really long, so I just wanted to strictly talk about labor and delivery in this video. But it was the hardest, longest day in my entire life. And in that moment, I was thinking, I don't want to do this ever again. Like thinking of having another baby and doing this all over again, I didn't even want to. But once you have your little bundle of joy in your hands and you just see how precious they are and how innocent and how you just want to nurture them and protect them and you just love them like you've never loved before, all of that goes away. All of those memories of the pain and everything goes away, and you would do it all over again. So definitely want more kids, but not for maybe a year or so. But I love her, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was super long and I was kind of all over the place, but it's really hard to like think back and remember all the little details. I'm sure I left things out. But yeah, my labor was very long and very hard, and I'm still healing now because it is, what is today? Today is August 17th. And so I went to my 6-week postpartum appointment, and I'm still healing down there because I had a 2nd-degree tear. So I'm still healing. I don't feel completely normal. Feel like still sore and sensitive down there. So that's a whole nother video. But we're both doing really well. I've been enjoying being home with her, and I just feel so blessed to have her in my life. She's definitely going to make me a better person, and yeah. So that's our labor and delivery story. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have had your babies, because I know some of you following my vlogs, pregnancy vlogs, were also pregnant, and if some of you, I know some of you were close in due date to my original due date. So if you guys had your babies, I would love to hear about it in the comments. Just leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear how your story went. But thank you again for watching. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.